Welcome back to my studio. This is Colleen with Designs of Value Art, and today we're going to talk about masking off your highlights to keep the white of the paper nice and clean and sharp. And I'm going to show you a bunch of different products. This is the one I started out with when I first started in watercolors, and as you can see, there's a yellow dye in it of some sort. It doesn't really, well, it does give you a little bit of a yellow color to it. You can see this is really old because as you tip it upside down, it's not even moving, so it's probably pretty well dried in there. And that's one of the reasons I don't use the Winsor & Newton art masking fluid any longer, is it does dry quickly, and if it's dry like that, it doesn't work. So it's important. And then there's another one on the market that is called permanent art masking fluid, and it can't be removed. It is permanent. So you want to be cautious which one you buy. Just buy the art masking fluid and you'll be good. And then this is the one that I use on a regular basis. It's PBO, I guess you would say it, drawing gum, and it's blue. And see, that moved right away. This one stays pliable quite a bit longer than that one does, and none of them are cheap. This one's $9 at Hobby Lobby. See if this one has a price tag on it. It does not. I probably got it at Dick Blick, but they are seldom. I don't think I've ever seen them on sale at Hobby Lobby, so you do have to pay full price, so you want to take care and close it nice and tight, and that's why I've gone to the drawing gum. You can see it on your paper, and it doesn't dry out as quickly in the jar, which makes it impossible to use if it does get dry. Now this is the pink soap, and what you want to do with the pink soap is you want to, and this is also by Speedball, they made that one fluid watercolor paper that I showed you, but you put your brush right up close to the ferrule, not to the ferrule, and you coat it with the pink soap because it makes it easier to take the drawing gum off of it or the art masking fluid off of your brush, and then you can reuse it and reuse it. But if you let that masking fluid dry in your brushes, there's just a little bit, and I don't know if you can see it on this one, but see how the edge doesn't have its nice little tip any longer? There's some drawing gum in there that I did not get out, and it causes a problem. For a larger area, this works fine, so I still keep it. I have a smaller brush, and these are just nylon bristle. This one happens to be a round 5 fine touch, so it's got to be Hobby Lobby again. And I usually use something on this order because it's got a nice short bristle. I'll hold it up against the, and I can get into the smaller areas, which is what we're going to need on this. But then they also make these. Now I used to use these. This is the Master's Touch number 2, and almost looks like a little scooper. And when I use these in oils, that's what we did with them, is we actually took the paint off if we made a mistake, put down the wrong value or something, or over blended and wanted to correct it. You would use one of these to remove the oil paint. Well, here you can actually use this if it's a larger area. They make these smaller. There's all different size of these. This is actually a rubber tip, so there's no bristles to worry about, easier to clean. So it's got some advantages. I still like the brush. I'm more used to the brush, so that's what I use. Now let me just show you how we do this. I'm going to get rid of some of these tools I'm not going to use. And I keep my reference material close at hand. And I try not to open anything up over my project because Murphy's Law, it's going to spill, and that's what it's going to look like. Now there's always going to be some part that dries over the top and in the cap, and I try to clean that out. And then I just take my pink soap, I open it up, and I just dunk my brush in. Get rid of some of it on the edge. Set that aside because I might need to use it. Now I'm not going to clean this brush in my water bucket because I don't want this to get into my paint. So I have to clean my little water jar out anyway. So when it's time for me to clean it, I'm going to just use that. Now I'm going to just dip my brush right into the drawing gum. There we go. And I've got some on there. Now right back here I can see in the photograph is a highlight. Actually, there's more of a highlight over here. So I'm going to start over here because I had a lot of drawing gum on there and I didn't want to put it into a smaller area. And then you need to let this dry completely. It's probably going to be, I usually do it the last thing, the end of the day, so it dries overnight, but it would probably be dry in a couple of hours that you could, it's always going to feel a little tacky. There's not much you can do about that. Now there's a tip of white right around this little petal here. So I'm just going to put that in right away as long as I'm in this area. Kind of smooth this section out. It does come down this edge. It feels like I might need just a little bit more soap in there, so I'm going to add that. And pick up some more gum. So this area back here's got a lot of highlight we're going to try to save. There's a little guy that's right there that's got some in it that we want to save. Okay. Now we're not going to do the entire project. I just want you to see how easy it is to use it. This is a highlight over here, down in this area. It's a little thicker than what I had it. And then there's another highlight over here. Comes down like this. And this whole area is a highlight. This is actually the edge of the petal there. Now, just so that you are aware, I guess I didn't really know this until it happened to me, so it's a good tip. I had a lot of areas that I wanted to protect. I think I was doing my tiger lily. It was an red-orange tiger lily on top of a teal green background. It was just stunning. And I was doing the background and I didn't want to lose my tiger lily, but there were petals and different things in there, and I masked everything. And as I took that mask off, once it was dry and I got my background in, all the lines came out. All the tracing that I had done had come out. So just be aware of that wherever you put your masking fluid. Most of the time it wouldn't matter, but in that case, since I wasn't quite sure where all the little petals were, I had to go back in and draw in the design. It worked well. What I did was I used a grid method of drawing it in, and that worked really well. I was thrilled with the way that turned out. I don't normally use a grid method unless I'm doing a real complex portrait, and then I'll use a grid method. And a grid method is just squares, and I do a transfer sheet of paper with a square over it, and I put it down on my resource material, and then I do instead of actually putting lines on my watercolor paper, I'll put dots where the grids are, and then I could just follow that grid in that section, and I can get it back in there a lot easier and more complete. And that's exactly what I needed for that project. So this is how you do that. Pick out your highlights and where you want them, and go ahead and lay down your masking fluid. Now we can paint at that point. Once everything's dry, we can go ahead and paint the entire project. At the end, and I'm just going to clean this right out in my dirty water here, because I don't want, again, I do not want to put this in my bucket of water, because that's fresh and clean and don't want to get into my watercolors. So I'm just cleaning this out. I'm going to dunk it back in to the soap. That'll help get rid of some of that too if it's stubborn. There we go. That got it pretty good. And then I just take a clean piece of paper towel that I always have sitting here, and I wipe it from the ferrule out. And that's how you always want to wipe your brushes off. Start with the ferrule. I actually kind of turn them, especially if they're around like this, to get that point. But it gives you that nice point, and it gets all of that out of there, and it's ready and ready to go the next time I need to do any gum. So the only other thing that you would want to see me do with this is at the end of the project, you can take your finger. This is called a cement. I don't know why, but it's got something to do with cement. And try to keep the edges as clean as possible so it doesn't mar the paper. Or all these little edges here are my drawing gum that I had put down before. Once it's dry, you just rub this over it and it comes right up. But the white of the paper is there and all the colors around it the way you want it. Now, if you would happen to have done it a little bit too thick in a certain area, and again, you want to make sure your jar is nice and tight so that doesn't dry out on you. Same thing with your pink soap. Make sure everything's nice and tight so it doesn't evaporate or anything. And then once you remove this, if it does happen to be a little bit too wide, you can just build up the color right around it, just as if you were doing the petal all over again, but stay away from the white. And it should work out perfectly. That's what I do. If I did not put the masking fluid down a lot, like in this area, and I wanted to be a little bit more whiter than what I had, that's where your eradicator comes in. Get it moist, wipe it off, and erase any of the watercolor paint that's in there, and that just takes it right back to the white surface that you're looking for. So that works out really, really well too. So that's how we mask our watercolor paper to save the white and keep our highlights, because as you know, in watercolors there is no white. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll move on from here in our project.